For reasons that are a mystery to me, people seem to really like these Sebring videos. So in this episode, we're going to drain the transmission fluid out and replace it with new fluid, including a filter replacement. Hopefully you'll like it. It's not a very hard job. You can do this one in about an hour and a half.
Okay, for all you 2002 six-cylinder Sebring fans out there, we have a transmission that's it's not slipping, but it's really rough in between gears, and sometimes when it's cold, aka when the fluid is thick, it doesn't even drop into gear at all. It's got to warm up for a minute and then it'll finally move. So we're going to just do the fluid exchange, take this thing out and put new fluid in it and see if that helps. All right, it's nice and gooey already, so I think these are all the same. So we're going to just check a couple out here, make sure they're all exactly the same. But these were barely even in here, which causes a concern just right off the bat. Yeah, they look like they're all the same length. So we're just going to take them all out, and this thing already looks like it's pretty loose. If not, I'll just pry it off there and see what happens. Okay, so this thing, I didn't have to pry it loose or anything. As soon as I got the bolts out, it's already started to come off by itself. So let's see if I can prop this up just a bit so you can see while I take these last two out. Again, you got to run the car for about 10 minutes just to make sure the fluid circulating through and a little warm, not hot, but warm, so it drains out better. So I'm going to take these last two screws out, three, and then this whole pan's going to just come right off of here. Am I missing one? Yeah. And here you go, that's it. Yahoo. There's about 4 quarts of oil in this thing. And that's the bottom of the transaxle here, so we're gonna pop this filter off as well. I suppose it just does in fact pop off. That's the end of the dipstick right here. See right here? That's the dipstick coming into it. There it goes. That's it. That's the filter. Okay, we're going to take this old gasket off of here, and once this old gasket's off, we'll take a razor and just clean this all up, make sure it's nice and smooth before we put the new gasket on. Okay, your filter should come with a new O-ring. Just put a little bit of ATF4 around that O-ring so it can make a nice seal once it gets up in there, and we'll mount it up.
I do have the service manual for this vehicle. It comes in very handy. This is where you'll find all the torque specifications and capacity specifications for things like how much transmission fluid should this vehicle take and what are the torque settings for these oil pan bolts, which are listed right here.
Okay, here's the replacement part. This is the filter. It comes with a new gasket, so we'll put that on there. And it's a Fram. It's not a Mopar, but since this car is kind of high mileage, it should work just fine, and we'll put it on, seal it all back together, put some ATF4 transmission fluid in it, and see how she runs. Of course, easier said than done, as always on these damn Chryslers. That's it. It's in there.
In the bottom of this pan, you're going to find a magnet, and that magnet is there basically to collect any kind of metal shavings or anything that might be in the pan so it doesn't go back up into the transmission. Just clean the pan out nicely, use some rags, and clean this magnet off so it can get to all the new shavings that might occur during the future use of the transmission to keep it from going back up into the transmission and causing future problems. But that's why that magnet's there, and put it back down into the bottom near the base. I'm not going to bore you to death with watching me put all of these screws back in this pan. But again, 8mm, use a socket or a wrench with an 8mm head on the end of it. I did find that it was very handy that the gaskets had holes that were small enough to kind of hold the 4 corners here, so I just kind of put those bolts in and made putting all the bolts into the pan a lot easier.
Okay, the specification is 165 inch-pounds, which in foot-pounds, which is the way the meter on this torque wrench is roughly 13.75 foot-pounds. So I've got it set to that. I don't know if you can see that right there, but and then we'll twist it and get them all tightened to spec.
Like I said, the transmission fluid is from the top, so you put a little funnel in the dipstick tube, and this thing does take about 4 quarts of ATF plus 4 transmission fluid. These transmissions are pretty finicky about transmission fluid, so make sure you use ATF plus 4, none of the other ones. And after we did it and filled it up, the morning problem where the thick transmission fluid was not allowing it to drop into gear, so there was some hydraulic issues there with the thicker fluid. Once we changed it out, it actually came back into gear quite nicely. But the bad news is it was still slipping between 4th and 3rd on the downshift, which means it's either a solenoid pack, which is going to be my first step to replacement, or the whole valve pack, or God forbid a transmission rebuild. But so that's going to be another video, because this part did fix one of the problems, which was the morning issue where it would not drop into gear, but we still have the downshift issue between 4th and 3rd. So we'll replace the solenoid pack and see if that helps. That's the next video.